Hey guys, how is it going? The weekend is here, which is means it's the time to shut yourself away, look at a screen, and learn and explore, which is pretty cool. I am currently really enjoying jumping into. I don't want to call it vibe coding. Actually, I don't want to label it that because I feel like I'm doing something a little bit different in the sense that I'm not vibe coding. I'm really trying to master AI coding as the hammer in my hand, as the tool. So I don't know. I've been seeing a lot of stuff recently about how it's all about put Whisper Flow on, have a chat with Claude, hammer out some prompts, and it's going to build you something. And that's regarded as vibe coding, like on on a video I just put out in the last couple of days. Let's see if I can find it. I've got to look at my own content, which seems. Just want to look at the comments. I'm not a web design expert, and well, there are loads of interesting comments really about all of this. But there was one that said about how shit, where do I even find my comments? I have no idea what vibe coding is. Look at this. It's a fair comment, and I actually Googled this the other day just because I was like, well, if I'm saying that I'm doing vibe coding, then what is that? Not that I don't know what it is, but what I thought was interesting was this definition here, and this is where I feel like I'm a little bit like I'm not sure I'm on board with that. So vibe coding is a software development approach where instead of writing code line by line, developers or non-coders use AI agents to generate entire applications through conversational high-level prompts. All right, high level is pretty cool. That there can be a skill set to that. But this is a bit. It emphasizes giving into the vibes by letting AI handle the implementation, debugging, and refinements. Actually, of course, this is an AI overview, so it's changed. But what it said the other day was that without the double checking process, without deep knowledge, or it was like it spoke about without somebody overseeing a deep check of the code that's provided. And that to me is a little bit where obviously I think a lot of people are commenting on this is where there are bound to be some drawbacks to vibe coding. A lot of people can put something together and then not have the expertise to fix or maintain it should issues occur. And this is where I kind of want to. I'll show you actually. I said I was going to put my actual agency site together. And I've done that in a really different way to how I put my first vibe coder site together, which is this one. So this is the first site that I vibe coded, and I was very much in the hands of AI here. I was talking, I was prompting Claude Code, and it was putting all of that together in VS Code, which is the process. And I actually, and a lot of people have queried why I was doing this, did so with Claude AI open as well, and I was going back and forth. The reason I do that, because people have asked, is that I like to have a learning environment, and Claude AI is where I'm discussing things. I'm talking about the wider strategy, why I might want to choose to implement something, and then I'm like, yep, okay, let's do that, and then and then Claude AI will be like, cool, tell Claude Code to do this, right? So I'm not just hammering commands into voice commands or prompts into Claude Code, VS Code via Whisperflow. I've been trying to get a bit more strategic about it, learn what I'm actually doing, why I'm doing it, and Claude AI has been that companion through that. Still, this first build was very much in the hands of Claude and Claude. Okay, so what you can see throughout this build, if you go and have a look at it, is Tailwind, just utility class based web development Tailwind. And I queried that with Claude, and I was like, I notice it's all class based. Which one is that? And he was like, it was Tailwind. I'm like, shit, because Tailwind is great, but it's what AI and vibe coding will initially sort of default to, at least for this type of Next.js, Claude Code build. And the reason for that is because it's just easy for AI to slap together. But I've done a lot of learning since October, November, and the thing that I really have set on in terms of best web development practices is that it's class-based has a lot of drawbacks to it. Obviously, Tailwind and others are very established, but I'm very much in the mind of styling on selectors, design tokens, variables, and how that can componentize. You can build with components, and take that across an entire site. And I say that with experience this week because I've had to go through an entire breakdance website that needed client request changes, and unfortunately a lot of the styles across about 30 pages were class based, and for best intentions at the time, that was seen as a way to implement styles with one source of truth. But when that had to separate, it just proves that the class-based system has a lot of drawbacks. Now, obviously, you can decide that you want to make a change, and you can give Claude Code a command to go through an entire folder structure and change it all out. But that is still major surgery on a project. So if client says, actually, can we change this, and there's classes applied to so many different elements, it's still major surgery for an application, for a website, for whatever you want to call it. And that just doesn't seem clever to me, to be honest. So this build is very much, I was in the hands of AI and vibe coding, and you could even argue, although it was me actually maintaining a lot of my own brand, you could argue that it has a lot of the hallmarks of what people might say is a typical AI build. It just happens that to be, that's actually how I've kind of been designing my stuff for my brand anyway. But this is definitely had, that one pixel border there, that definitely has a bit of an AI tweak there, and all of this, it is a bit more heavily influenced. And those are some of the criticisms for vibe coding. It's the idea that somebody is just going to speak into Claude Code, make something that they don't really understand, is going to be made in the best AI system of the time. And that might not be best practices. I don't think that Tailwind and class-based web dev is best practices. It's just easy. And that's why AI defaults to it, because it's easy for AI to implement, and for the masses to be happy. So when we think about what vibe coding is, I think it's risky, to be honest. I feel like it's a lot of quick wins, and it's not built on best practices. And as I've thought about this over the last couple of days, that reminds me of the pagebuilder revolution, to be honest. That is exactly what happened when Wix and Squarespace and Shopify came along with loads of visual drag drops, and people started to love it. And then that started to be really implemented in WordPress with Divi and Elementor. And what we've seen as a culture for that is a lot of people who are otherwise unskilled making a lot of bad decisions and really doing away with quite a lot of professionalism for the sake of quick wins and, quick fire satisfaction of clients. And I think it's a bit different because, they were talking about a lot of styling, but I think it's the same kind of thing. You can get quick results. You can just do this to get that, but the quality of what you've done isn't there. It's a facade. It's a glossy veneer. And so that's where I'm kind of really sitting on this. So as I step into vibe coding, i.e. the practice of using AI and maybe voice prompts, but using prompts to complete a large portion of the legwork maybe, or the heavy lifting, I'm trying to be very, very careful that I'm trying to be very careful that it's a tool in my hand. I'm not the tool using it. Does that make sense? No, I don't know. Yeah, yeah. I want to be very careful to know that I am learning how to use it effectively. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing. So as I've been building out my second site, and I'm using technically the practice of vibe coding, I'm trying to do that by applying the best web dev principles that I've learned over the last few months, very much the Etch, Kevin Geary kind of school of thought. And it's been going well. So I've actually built out with components. I've built out with selectors and variables and design tokens. I've guided the AI to use best web dev principles, and Claude has gone like, "Yep, actually that is a lot better." But it's not how AI Claude was going to do it. It's had to be something that I shape and I lead. So actually, I want to show you this actually because yeah, it's been a really really cool journey, and I think that's what I should really be sharing. So on this window, I have some windows, some tabs open, and I can show you. First of all, this is the site that I've been rebuilding. So I did my this is my digital strategy kind of portfolio personal site. This is more of my agency presence called Boosh Digital, and obviously it's geared towards building digital assets, boosting with digital strategy, and engagement and blah blah blah. All the services and everything, and a bit of a different vibe. I always like base white. But there's a certain style to this. This is definitely a style that I've put together. It's quite branded, even if I've implemented it a bit terribly on this section at least. But these are the important things that if somebody says, "Oh, make me an AI coded site or a vibe coded site," it's like, can a designer give you a visual and you are going to get it pixel perfect? And deliver what has been requested by a visual designer. I work with a bunch of visual designers, and they shouldn't all compromise what they want to output for clients. So yeah, it should be something that they can say, "Hey, we'd like it to look like this." So Boost Digital, even if it needs a bit of refinement, has definitely had a brand feel to it, and I wanted to bring a lot of these elements across. And the second thing is that I wanted definitely to componentize, because that's a mistake I made with this build. I was learning during the process of making it, and this is built in Breakdance. And in Breakdance, even if you try, you can't componentize things. You can globally style things, but it always ends up with a cock up somewhere along the lines. As much as I've tried to make that work. And so this section should be a component. This section should be a component with props. This, maybe not this one, but these should be components, and same with this. You just can't componentize a button even in Breakdance. So yeah. So there have been problems with this build, and you can see if you walk around the site that there are inconsistencies as a result. And I don't want to take that across to my new project. So not saying it's, I've put 5.5 hours into this rebuild, so I'm going to show you it. And there's tweaking to be done, but I'm going to show you how I've made components in my Next.js website. Okay, so this is the older version built in Breakdance, and this is the new one. So yeah, I've obviously it needs some tweaking. I've got to change the sizes of things, but I'm going to do that in just one simple command, because it's all made with components and variables and design tokens. But look at this. I've brought across a lot of the elements together. I've got the radius and the type of cards. The way that the cards look. That's carried across really really well. All of the different structure. I'm really pleased that I've brought the brand elements across, and for 5.5 hours work, I've got a lot of stuff together. I need to bring in the dynamic elements of it, but it's really really coming along. Best of all, my plans to make a little bit of a page builder that clients can use in the CMS has also started to work. I just had my first little play with it, and I'll show you that actually. But yeah, Really pleased with how this has come along, and it's all componentized, all tied back to CSS, well, to variables and design tokens, and I'll show you the process of that. Before I do that, even though, the strength of AI is in the fact that we can use it to speed up tasks. So before I did that, to give Claude the idea of my brand, without just sending over initially a load of CSS selectors and variables and all that, I fed Claude a bunch of screenshots, a lot of brand, details about my brand, and asked it to summarize all of this to ensure that it had a good idea of what I wanted. And then it spat out my nice little brand document. This is in itself, chargeable. It's a great brand document that's all been put together really, really well. I've got everything here, all represented fantastically, and I even have all of it represented in initial variables and design tokens. So this makes it, it's so transferable. I'm really pleased. So that's a great document that you can make in and of itself, pulling all the important parts across when you want to guide your vibe coding from an older site. So, pulling it across from Elementor, Breakdance, Bricks, WordPress, whatever. You want to be able to say, yes, I can take that design across and make it happen for you. So let's have a look at really how it's been built out. Because this is what I find exciting, like, trying to figure out how I can do the best work possible and be in charge of it. So the first thing I needed to do was carry across all of my globals and create components, and I only want to build with those component blocks. So within my application, I've got a components folder. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, and it's got all of the essentials so far. Okay, so home hero. Okay, and each of these components features 3 files. We've got the index.ts, and that's actually what pulls it into different locations with this reference, or this reference. Oh god, shit, don't remember. Although I am learning. Then we've got the actual template. All right, so if we look section and div, and yeah, that's all looking great. Feature grid inner. Okay. So we've got the feature grid inner. There are some things to learn in terms of how that's put, actually written, but it starts to make sense. And if you are familiar with BEM, you can start seeing that is all making a lot of sense here. So we might have to learn a bit of fluff around it, but this is easy to learn. And before long, you can be coding this up in VS Code and then hand it all over to AI if you want. But the main thing is, the structure is there for you to master here. So we've got CSS, we've got the actual template file, and then this is how it gets called into other templates. And that's the case for all of the different components. So I've got my contact form, again, same 3 files. If we look at something like page hero, these are for the sub pages. So again, we've got the template. Okay, and all built out with BEM methodology, because I believe that's the best way to do it. So we've got the page hero, then we've got the page hero inner, page hero label, heading, price, and yeah, that's great. And then if we pop along to the CSS, we see that we've actually got that all laid out as we should. Like, this is how we should do that in Bricks, in Etch, in Breakdance if you can. And notice that it's all tying back to variables and design tokens, and the place to go and find those is got to remember globals CSS. Okay, I know some people might frown on that because it's a global CSS sheet. I don't know how to get around that at this point, but I feel like I'm observing the best web dev principles that I can, and look at how solid all of this is. This is very similar to the sheet that I had just designed and made available to those wanting to try and do this in Breakdance. Check out the video for that, Breakdance styling with selectors. Why is that red? But yeah, this is how we want to style things. It's great. So everything is pulling back to a variable and a design token, and everything is componentized. So it's with these that the pages are created. So let's go to a static page. So in the Next app, you have a folder per page if it's a static page, and then it has page.tsx. So if we're in the about one, we can see that these are the components that it's pulling in. All right, so page hero, split content, and if I want to use a different component, I've got to splat it in there, and then I would add it in here. So we've got the split content followed by the feature grid. Okay, and then the actual content. But it's all being styled with one source of truth. Now that, I feel like this is more of an achievement because I'm vibe coding. I'm using AI and prompting to do a lot of the heavy lifting to do this work really quickly. But I am the person who is guiding it. I'm not being guided by what AI tells me can be done and how it should be done. I think I'll leave that there and take you to Sanity. This is just a bit of a show and tell, really, and just to communicate how I'm learning, really. But I find this really exciting. I find it like encouraging, even, that I can see this starting to come together. So this is the Sanity setup, and what we have here is a service page, and I've given every service page a kind of like a wrapper template. I do this in Bricks or Breakdance. And what happens here is that we have the page title, we have the heroes section. This is part of the template, and myself or clients or marketing teams can slap all of this in, these basic details that should be on every page. And then there's a call, and then down here, we've got bottom call to action banner. All right, so that's the one at the bottom by the footer. This should be on every page, so I want that to be a set template. But this is the bit that I find really exciting, and this is what makes me feel like I can create these sites and hand them out to clients, is that I've created page blocks. And what this basically does is bring in different components, which we've already got components. Let's put in another split content one. And so I haven't tested all of this out, so if something goes wrong, just please see the intention of it. Great intentions. Be the master of the tool. Try not to be a tool. Okay, cool. Then we've got not a tool school. And a button link. Cool. I totally hadn't planned to be like messing around in all of this. I won't add an image. It should put a placeholder in there. And then let's make that publish. Hopefully it's going to publish with no problems. Okay, now let's go to web design. Okay, so I've just created a new page called web design. If I refresh that, I should have refreshed locally anyway. Hey, look at that. So now what I know here is that I've created a page builder essentially in these sites. Now that I find really bloody exciting because all of that is tied back again to one source of truth. These are built with global components, all built on the variables. I'm repeating myself now, but this is very, very exciting for me. I feel very empowered, and this is actually easier to implement than building out similar template structures and page block template uses in Breakdance and even Bricks. So let's have a quick look at one more thing. I just want to check. Oh yeah, that was it. So I haven't tested if that works yet. So I want the image on the left. Refresh, don't let me down. So yeah, I'm pretty chuffed. This is my second vibe coding build, but I'm very chuffed that I am able to get it pixel perfect how I like. I can create a bunch of different sort of variables on fields. I've made a page builder essentially. And yeah, it's not going to look like every other AI produced website because I'm just not doing it like that. Anyway, again, this is probably a bit of a messy little riffy splat of information and thoughts. But I just see a lot of talk out there about all AI vibe coded applications and websites look the same, and really they do quite often. I don't want to learn to do that. I want to be the person holding the hammer and knowing how to use it. And I feel like with that intention, this has already started to come along. I'm being more creative than I'm actually able to be on WordPress. That being said, I do like to be able to put all of the pages together myself. I've had it in my head, like, can Etch, which is a great interface to use for front end development, and can that be used and integrated here somehow, and then I can output output my templates and my styles, and then Claude can add the Next.js gubbins around it. Like, yeah, that's probably something that could work really well. Yeah, so I don't know, I've got some thoughts really, but what's your take on it? Shouldn't we be the master of the tool instead of the tool telling us how and why to do things? That's where I'm kind of sitting with this, but yeah, cool. I don't know. I'll leave it there. The discussion is open. I look forward to discussing that with anyone, obviously, which is what a discussion is. Time to go.